Namaste all. My name is Nikunj Trivedi. I'm the president of Coalition of Hindus of North America, or CONA. And today's session is going to focus on an update related to the New York Bill S2727. It's an education bill that's talking about symbols of hatred and deeming swastika as a hate symbol. As a quick background for all, in summer of 2020, the state of New York was contemplating an education bill that would teach students from grades 6 to 12 about symbols of hatred. And while the intention of the bill is good, it's important to teach children about how symbols can be used as symbols of intimidation and bigotry and intolerance. And these are important things for today's society. Problem was that the bill incorrectly called the Nazi symbol of hatred as a swastika, when in fact Hitler and the Nazi party never used the word swastika for their symbol of hatred. After an outrage from Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain groups back in the summer of 2020, the bill was stalled and it did not pass. However, with the new Senate, the bill has been introduced under S2727 as of January 2021. So what's at stake for the communities? The bill, first of all, incorrectly deems a sacred symbol for over 2 billion currently living people from various cultures around the world as a symbol of hatred. It also incorrectly calls swastika as a symbol of hatred worldwide, when naturally speaking, it is not the case. Currently, 2 billion people use it as a symbol of peace, well-being, and prosperity. The bill does not differentiate between swastika and the Hakenkreuz, swastika being a symbol of peace, well-being, and prosperity, and the Hakenkreuz being the symbol for Hitler and the Nazi party. The bill also subjects students to learn an incorrect meaning of the swastika and perpetuates misinformation and misunderstandings about Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, and other traditions. But more alarmingly, the bill may also create the potential of hatred towards and bullying of Hindus, Buddhists, and Jain and Native American students who use swastika or similar symbols in their cultures. To clarify some myths about the bill, because we have had many people who have either started petitions or have called us about what the status of the bill is, I want to just bust 3 myths about this. First is the bill bans the swastika. That is not true. The bill only calls for the swastika to be taught as a symbol of hatred in New York schools. So it's very important for us to understand the bill is not banning swastika. It's an education bill. The bill is being passed today or tomorrow. No, this is not a town hall to pass the bill or reject the bill. That this is a community town hall. The bill is currently being discussed in the Senate Education Committee. To just understand the process, first the Senate Education Committee has to approve it, then it will go to the full Senate, to the Assembly, then to the governor, and then signed into law if it makes it there. And the third is we are just starting these conversations. That is also not true, because various organizations, some of them are here today, we've been working together since the summer of 2020 to address our concerns with Senator Kaminsky and other co-sponsors. So it's not that we're just starting the process. This process has been going on since summer of 2020. We have written various letters and petitions. Our last petition had 10,000 signatures in summer of 2020. And many people have already called the senators and written to them, as well as the assembly members, because last time the Senate had passed the bill, it went into assembly. So both the Senate and assembly members are aware of what's going on right now. So what's been the progress so far? As I mentioned, multiple organizations from around the state have met with different senators, Senators Kaminsky, Thomas, and Mayer, along with local senators to express concerns and work on amending the language, changing the language. We have also clarified that we do support the intention of the bill, but we want to ensure that the educational curriculum reflects accurate information, which means distinguishing between swastika and the Hakenkreuz. We have done continued calls and meetings with senators by various community clusters around New York. So whether you live in upstate New York, and if you're in New York City, or if you're in Long Island, many community clusters have called their respective senators and representatives. We also had a swastika conference earlier in February during the UN Interfaith Harmony Week, where we had various Buddhist, Jain, and Hindu organizations come together and voice our concerns from the US and in different parts of the world. People have asked us what you can do to help. So I want to just talk about 4 different things, and we'll bring out the messaging in the next slide. First, we should stick to our key messages. So we'll talk about those key messages, but it's important for us to stick to those messages as a community, as a group of organizations and individuals. We have to speak in the same voice, speaking in a united voice and the same voice on the topic. But we also support the intention of the bill. We want the bill to pass, just not in the way it is right now. We need to reach out to our local Senate representatives and share our concerns respectfully. We should not be, going in angry and having, disrespectful comments and things like that. You can also go to the Senate website and you can vote no for the bill, and you can voice your concerns there also. We can also hold educational sessions. So some of the community members have already held educational sessions. We'll find out more information at kona.org/swastika. You can talk about how the swastika is not the same as the Hakenkreuz, how swastika is sacred, how Hitler never used the word swastika, the Nazi party never used the word swastika, so on and so forth. So it's very important for us to do that. So I would say these will be the 4 places that if you're interested in helping, you can certainly help. You can become a partner in this effort. All that information is available at kona.org/swastika. So what are some key messages that we can convey in our discussions? First one, we fully support educational efforts on hatred and intolerance in order to create a harmonious and mutually respectful society. This is very important because as Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and other groups, we do believe in mutual respect. We believe in harmony and things like that. Swastika itself is an ancient and sacred symbol that is thousands of years old and is currently used by close to 2 billion people across many cultures worldwide. So it's not a symbol that was disappeared a while ago. This is a currently used symbol. Swastika is also a Sanskrit word, which stands for well-being, peace, and prosperity. Hitler and the Nazi party never used the word swastika. They only use the word Hakenkreuz, or what they call the hooked cross. The hooked cross can be found in various churches across Europe, Northern Africa, Latin America, and has very different meaning and symbolism than the swastika. Hitler did not misappropriate swastika. He misappropriated an ancient Christian symbol, which he called the Hakenkreuz, and turned it into an emblem of hatred and destruction. The bill should reflect language that clearly distinguishes between the swastika, which is a symbol of peace, well-being, and prosperity, versus the Hakenkreuz, which is Hitler's symbol of hatred. We also need to ensure that it accurately reflects the meaning of the word swastika and the meaning of swastika in these cultures. So these are some key messages that I would encourage everybody to take. And we will also share this on our website in the next day or two. If you want to ask questions, you can send us an email at info@kona.org, and we will be happy to share these types of messages for everybody. We also want to share some myths, because there have been mixed messages from our community about what the swastika really is and the meaning of the word swastika versus what Hitler used. So there are 3 points that I would like to clarify for people. The first one is there's something called Nazi swastika versus Hindu, Buddhist, or Jain swastika. That's a myth. There is no such thing as Nazi swastika. There's only swastika. Hitler and Nazis never used the word swastika, but used the word Hakenkreuz, which means hooked cross. Second myth that people say, oh, well, Hitler's swastika is tilted while the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain swastika is straight. No, not really. While the Hakenkreuz is tilted, in reality, swastika is drawn in many different ways as a symbol of peace, well-being, and prosperity. So whether it's flipped or straight, with dots, without dots, that doesn't really matter. The Hakenkreuz may be drawn tilted, but that is not a Hitler swastika. That is called the Hakenkreuz. It's the usage of the geometrically identical shape for peddling hatred should be the focus, rather than using tilted versus straight and not. You can draw a similar shape of Hakenkreuz and it may look similar to swastika, but how it's used is very important. Another thing that we have noticed is people say, well, we should spell Hitler swastika with a W versus the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain swastika with a V. Well, there's no such thing, as I said, that there's no such thing as Nazi swastika. Swastika is also a Sanskrit word and is used by 3 traditions, very specifically, Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains, and only has one pronunciation. To give you an example, many people can say, Bhagavad Gita, sometimes they spell it as with a V, so B-H-A-G-A-V-A-D, or with a W. That the V one is more popular nowadays than the W one. But in the case of Saraswati, the W word, S-A-R-A-S-W-A-T-I, is more popular. Similarly, Bhagavan versus Bhagavan, the word B-H-A-G-A-W-A-N or B-H-A-G-A-V-A-N are also similar. So for us, the Sanskrit pronunciation is only swastika. There is no swastika with a W, there's no swastika with a V, it's only swastika. Similarly, that word does not exist in the German language. So Hitler and the Nazi party never used that word. So we need to be very clear that there is no such thing as Nazi swastika. There is no such thing as Hitler swastika. There is also no spelling of swastika with a V versus a swastika with a W. Those are all English spellings for the people who use this word in Sanskrit. There's only swastika. So we just wanted to clarify that as well. For more information, you can go to kona.org/swastika. I would highly recommend you to join us in these efforts and get more information there. And just remember, swastika is not Hakenkreuz. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I welcome Dr. TK Nakagaki to say a few words. You're on mute.
Are you able to hear me now? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nikunji. I believe you said many things that I was going to say anyway. But so basically, you very cover very well. So I just wanted to mention, as you said, because I myself actually wrote the book on swastika, actually from the Buddhist point. So the Buddhist swastika and Hitler's cross, and rescuing a symbol of peace from the forces of hate. And so actually, I'm first of all glad to be able to use whatever I wrote, because that's I try to give more information of what's the background of the swastika itself. And then this is actually based upon dissertation, so that's why we have a lot of study for that. And then I'm glad that this station now, I think it's more important to be able to find the resources, because most of the swastika is always kind of bad side of it, or you can't change it. But then, and also, it's not much of the things for the translation part, because a lot of time in English, normally translate swastika automatically. I mean, the Hakenkreuz automatically swastika. So that's why everybody think that Hitler used the word swastika and so forth. So that's the kind of mess that we have. And and then even a German person, they think when they speak to American people, they think in America, you know, the Hakenkreuz is called swastika, so that's why they use the word swastika, and so it's kind of a sometimes confusion from that. But then clearly, so I checked also through my dissertation how the usage of the Hitler, how much of the words of the Hakenkreuz is used, and then how much of no swastika words are found. So that's definitely true, meaning like Hakenkreuz is the only words that he used. And then the Hitler actually didn't really like to use the other language than the German language, right? Because they're the war, and then everybody is in German, they should speak German language. And so definitely Hakenkreuz is the one that he used. And then even when he referred to the swastika in Japan or India, he actually make a speech. But even at that time, he probably knew the word swastika from that sense, manji or Japanese words, but then he still keep using the Hakenkreuz as when he referred to the swastika too. So it's actually for his language that he always used as Hakenkreuz. So that's that I would like to guarantee from that sense. And so as Nikunji mentioned, the problem for the bill is really the swastika as a hate symbol. That particular thing is totally wrong. So it should be the Hakenkreuz is the hate symbol. I mean, then that will be okay. But then Bill always refer the swastika, use the word swastika, and then refer it as the hate symbol. I mean, that particular part has been very problematic. And so as the Nikunji mentioned, so I don't have to explain for the usage of word itself. Sanskrit words su as like the root words, and then drive. I mean, so swastika itself is derived from the word su as a good and well beings, and asked it to be, and a create a noun. So therefore, swastika has all good meaning. I mean, well-beings and all the best and peace and virtuous, auspicious, and all those others too. So so that is also very, very important, because if you're talking about the swastika words, definition of the word itself is totally not to be understood. And then as if nobody checked the dictionary in this country, I mean, so if you write the words, and especially the word swastika, what you can find in the dictionary now also has a little problematic too. It used to be the swastika, it has always has a meaning of the good, and then of the auspicious symbol. But then now, of course, somehow even that definition is gone, and only the hate or the symbol is existed. So which itself is creating some more problematic matters. So I think bill is one thing, and also dictionary and all the other things are also creating illusion in a way based upon the wrong information, and then the build up to it. Then we may have more problem because of that. Base itself is wrong, and so anyway, so I agree also because nowadays also, of course, even today, I think Mayor de Blasio talked about the anti-Asian, violence, and but is increased. But at the same time, so this in a way, the swastika is another possibility, that because still people use it in this country, the Asian community. And if you go to the Buddhist temple, the Buddha has a swastika like that you see in my background. And so then that could be, if some people see, the swastika is there, I mean, do they consider that as a way to attack to the temples and so forth? So it is a potential to be, encourage people to, or reason to attack to the Asian community. So yes. I believe this is important to avoid. And also for respect to the Native American, as Nikunji mentioned, it is has been important temple, I mean, the symbol before the war. So I think they can be reclaim for them, that's reclaiming, but to bring the this symbol back, and then with the understanding, and then this is one of the good way to actually to respect really the other culture, and then start learning, because I mean, America is not the only country, but also we have to open up our eyes, and so always see the entire community. And then so by saying the swastika is an evil symbol, then you're really opposing to the other countries, Asian country, entire country when it comes to, and the people visit all those countries, and then they feel like, swastika is there, that's like an evil symbol is there. That itself is not really good at all. So anyway, sorry, I'm getting kind of long. So
no, thank you for that. Absolutely.
But then that's my take, and hopefully this bill, education is a very important one. But then right now, what they're saying education is creating more ignorance, and then ignorance of swastika has to be stopped first. Right?
Exactly.
So I think the one suggestion, maybe here, maybe not, but then you should have a two entry of the language. Basically, that's what we're trying to do. One is swastika for the good symbols and Eastern symbols or Native American symbol, but yet Hakenkreuz as referred to the Fucht cross as the Hitler's cross. So should have a two entry, two lexicons, for the language, because most of the country has those two words. It's separately, not mixed with those two. But here in the United States, or English-speaking country, they mix both those two different things together that create the problem. So I think the education should start from there. And so I thank you very much for giving me the time. And then so I would like to thank again for Nikunji to hold this wonderful events. And then I hope we'll continue. And then this is a great opportunity to really share what is the meaning of the swastika and the Hakenkreuz, and to the public as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Nakagaki. Next, I'd like to welcome Dr. Raj Bayani. Dr. Bayani has been working very closely with all of us on contacting the reps and making sure that we work together and ensure that the language that we're trying to put in the bill is proper and reflects exactly what we want as a community. So, Dr. Bayani, please.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody who's joining here, which shows the passion and unity of entire Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain community for this very, very important cause for all of us. Swastika is holy symbol, as everybody has gone through it extensively. The message should be very, very simple to our representatives in Assembly and Senate, that it is educational bill. So you cannot educate people something which is wrong by itself. So you're making two wrongs, that doesn't make one right. So when we had a good meeting with our Senator Todd Kaminsky, as well as Kevin Thomas, and several other leaders, we ourselves have met with the team here, and we conveyed the message, and they understood. And they are now, the educational part is from our side. So every one of you, please reach out to your senator, your assemblyman, assemblywoman, and tell them very, very important and very precise 3 or 4 points, which is swastika is a holy symbol, Haken Cruz is a symbol of hatred, swastika is not a symbol of hatred, swastika is a holy symbol for 2 billion people. And please educate right thing to everybody in the world, including dictionaries, media, and everyone. That's all we have to hammer and hammer and hammer. If we keep our message very simple and uniform, we can get the work done. If we just keep long and confusing messages to people, they will not get it, and it will get lost in translation. We are very honored to have our leaders here, Jennifer Rajkumar. She's an assemblywoman, and congratulations, Jennifer, for getting in this assembly, as well as Nita Jain. She's a Democratic district leader, and other leaders are here. They are going to work with us. So let's take the advantage of them and their help and their influence. Keep the language same, reach out to your representatives in your area, and get the work done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhayani. Next, I'd like to invite Rakesh Sridharji. Rakesh ji is also part of Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh and has been working with us very closely. Rakesh ji, please go ahead. You're on mute, so you may have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Namaste, everybody. I'm sorry, I can't bring up my video for some reason. You mentioned Hindu, Buddhist, and Jains. Nikunji, I think you should include Sikh community also.
Definitely. That's a good suggestion. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say one thing I would...
It's a symbol for Sikhs, and we should be all inclusive as far as we Indians are concerned.
But actually,
I don't disagree with that. But the reason we have not included that very specifically is because members of the Sikh community have told us not to include it.
Doesn't matter. And members of the Sikh community do not decide whether swastika is their symbol or not. Lot of Sikhs that I know swastika as an auspicious symbol, and I think you would agree with that.
They respect
it. Yes, absolutely.
They respect the symbols for any kinds, basically. So swastika will be respected by them, but not necessarily the way that main symbol for their own tradition. That's why they ask us not to include.
Okay, I mean, I just want to...
Yeah, so let's continue. That's a conversation we can have separately. Why don't we?
The second point is that we. About 10 days ago, we had a Zoom meeting with Senator Shelley Meyer, as I mentioned to you, Trikunji. We were about 10 people. I was representing as a Hindu citizen and from ECOL group and HSS. There were 3 young students who presented their point of view and mentioned their harassment that they have faced. There were 2 representatives from the temple, local temples in Westchester. There was a representative from Arya Samaj, Dr. Rajendra Gandhi was there. The meeting went for about half an hour, much more than the senator had actually allotted. She's the chairperson of the Education Committee. And we clearly stated to her, just like you said, that Haken Cruz is quite distinct from swastika. The two must be mentioned as having separate meaning, and there is nothing known as Nazi swastika. And it was a very effective meeting. Towards the end, she said she's going to go back to Senator Kaminsky, discuss with him about the language. and come back to us. So we're going to have a subsequent meeting. This was a very friendly conversation with her. She has attended several of our conferences, our Sun Salutation camps, our India Heritage Camp in Westchester. So, and we are trying to meet 2 other senators here in Westchester, Rockland area, just like yourself and Dr. Bayani have met Kaminsky. Now, the other thing is that you were going to discuss the language with Sumati Sengupta. I don't know whether you have managed.
No, I've not been able to so far.
Okay, because like yourself, like Dr. Bayani said, we must have a uniform language and we must impress upon that so that we do speak with one language and there shouldn't be any confusion about what we want. I think that really is all I have to say. We're going to have a subsequent meeting with Dr. Meyer, and I can come back to you after that happens.
Excellent. Thank you, Rakesh ji. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Neeta Jain. Neeta ji, can you turn your video on? I think you could probably, let me just make sure. Okay, you could turn your video on now. Dr. Jain has been, she's a district community leader on the Democratic Party side, and very strong worker on this particular front. And we've been working together from the beginning. When we first had this issue, we had a town hall around this, and Dr. Jain was on that town hall, and she had expressed her concerns and interest in helping. And so good to see you again. And please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikunj, for putting up this again as a town hall, which is very important. As we discussed this morning also, like a lot of people were under wrong impression that this bill is going to be on the floor today and it's going to be passed and all those things. So everybody knows by now that what is swastika and what is Heckin Cruise very clearly. Adults and school kids, everybody, whoever is involved in this process. And as we discussed with the legislators last year, and you know very well, and that's how we found out the way how to correct it. And as they expressed us what do we need to do, Senate already passed it last year, so they could not do anything at this moment. So they are waiting for Assembly to amend it. And Assembly members who we spoke to, and they said that send us an amendment language, whatever way you want. So that's what we are working, and that's what we are, where are we right now? And we are all saying that we should have one language, and everybody should send to one person, one point person, as myself, International Ahimsa Foundation, which is working on it with Kohana and all other organizations, whoever involved, make one center point, send all the languages, all the letters you want to send in one place, and then we can combine and add it in one place. So solidly, it will go in one language only to them. So there's no confusion and no back and forth. So at the end, I would just want to say that the next process is that right now we are not scheduled for this bill to go on the floor in Assembly. Whenever I have my eyes on it, and Assembly members know that I would like to have information as soon as they schedule this meeting for this particular bill. So once this bill will be scheduled to go on floor, they will amend. So before that, we want to give them, and they told me that we can send this language out to them by March. So it looks like that it's not going to be on the floor before March. But we are very close right now, so we should work as fast as we can before it gets late. And once this get amended in Assembly, then Assembly has to send it back to Senate, and then the Senate will do the same thing. So I think we are on the right track, and I love the enthusiasm, I love the unity, and I love the solidarity of our community, how we came together on this. And I love to see this same kind of enthusiasm and solidarity in future for any kind of issues which can arise. It's always happened, one thing or the other. To come together and be a one voice for our nation, for our religion, for our identity. And thank you so much, everyone. Keep it up, Nikunj, and we are almost there.
Thank you, Neeta ji.
By the way, Nikunj, this bill
Yes.
is still with the Education Committee. This is Rakesh Sridharji. This is
Exactly.
not in the Senate. It's still with the Education Committee. And from what Senator Meyer told us, it's not getting anywhere right now.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
it is.
That's what we
It is not
discussed in the
going
beginning
ahead.
of the presentation, that people think that the bill is passed and that's
No,
wrong.
it's not
It's sitting in the
going
education committee right now.
Months and months. That's what Todd Kaminsky told us, actually.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to invite Jennifer Rajkumar-ji. Jennifer Ji, if you can turn your video on, that would be great. As we all know, Jennifer Ji is one of the two sort of South Asian / Indian American people have been elected to Assembly in New York. We're very, very proud of you, and I'm very happy that you joined us today. So please go ahead. And I know we spoke a little bit earlier in the year when this whole bill thing was going on, and you were busy with the election process. So I'm glad everything is done, and we can count on your support.
Thank you so much, Nikunj. It's so good to see you again. He was kind enough to reach out to me during my election, and I remember that. So it's good to see you again. Excellent, informative presentation today. It's great to see my good friend, Dr. Raj Bayani. He was one of the reasons I got elected. He supported me all the way, as well as so many people here today. And great to see my friend Neeta Jain here, great district leader here in Queens. And of course, some people not on the panel, but my good friend from home, Dr. Jatinder Abhi, who told my family I absolutely must be on the call today. So I am 100% in your corner. And I have been monitoring this bill closely. And I understand the issue. I am the only Hindu elected in the state, the first South Asian woman elected in the state. So I definitely grew up with the swastika symbol as a symbol of peace at home. So I know exactly what's going on here from personal experience. As was just correctly said, so far the bill is in committee in the Senate and has to go through the Assembly too. I'm a state assemblywoman, so it won't become law if it doesn't go through the Assembly. And I'll be a very strong advocate to make sure that we educate people properly on the symbol, and that a symbol that's revered in our culture is not made out to be a symbol of hate. I'm also very close with the Jewish community. So my closest friends are Jewish. So I understand where they're coming from. But I'm so heartened to see our community come together. And we're going to educate people, and it's going to be wonderful. So I'm here with you every step of the way. Please keep me in the loop. Anyone that you want me to talk to in the legislature, I'm there. I'm now 7 weeks in the job, but I'm doing really well. I've co-sponsored over 26 bills. I've introduced my own bill. So this is all to say, you have a Hindu American that's there and that will advocate. So just let me know and we'll make good things happen.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to working with you, and thank you again for all your support. Having one of our people there certainly makes a difference because we can resonate. And as you rightly mentioned, it's also important to understand the fact that the Jewish community does get attacked with the symbol of hatred, right? So we need to be respectful of that, but at the same time, distinguishing between what the symbol of hatred is and what the symbol of peace is. So thank you very much for supporting us, and really looking forward to continuing to work with you on that. Thanks again. And last but not least, Mukesh Modi ji. Mukesh ji is another community leader from Long Island area. I would like him to say a few words, and then we'll hand it over to Nipun to talk about some of the legal aspects around the bill and the language. Mukesh ji, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Nikunji, for inviting me. I won't take much time. I just want to we had a very good meeting with Todd. He was very positive about to change the language. There is some error. I think the Nikunji is going to fix it. And yes, we noticed that the enthusiasm and the energy what the other people has. Everybody started their own group, which is really good. But as Raj Banerjee mentioned, that we should be, all the language should be uniform. So we speak the one language. So this meeting that's the main reason for this meeting, to educate between us to among everyone. So kindly just take care of that, I think. And also we should, anybody, maybe we can guide to the, educate to the students also in the schools. I think we should do that too. With that, back to you, Nikunji.
Great, thank you. So without further ado, I want to get Nipun on the call.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Rakesh Sridharji. I just have a question for Dr. Raj Bayani. Raji, I know you had a meeting with Todd Kaminsky, a Zoom meeting. Our meeting with Shelley Meyer was excellent. And if we could arrange a similar conference with him at some stage, before the whole thing matures, we would have all the participants giving this same thing, and that'll be a great thing if we can do it. We're only in Westchester and you're in Long Island. It's not far.
Yeah, what we'll do, Sridharji, is first we talk to them one-on-one, then we'll actually bring all of them together. Meyer, Kaminsky, Kevin Thomas, Jennifer is with us. We will get Mr. Ramos, his assembly speaker. We're going to bring everybody together from their side and our committee so that we can have open discussion with them together. I think that will be very, very effective. That's our next plan, Sridharji.
It can do that. Yeah, that'll be great. That'll be great.
We
And
will
we'll have
do that.
3 students who were very, very impressive. That'll be great. Okay. thank you.
Nitaji, and also a lot of connection we can use. Everybody
Yes.
who has a connection will use all of your connections. Absolutely.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Nipun, go ahead.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Nikunj, for having me. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I would say a specific thank you to all of the doctors, the elders, the philosophers, the educated people that are here that are reminding us about the importance of the swastika. My job, what Nikunj told me to do, was to demonstrate what the message is, what the legal limitations are that we have in fighting this. So I looked at the questions that were coming in the Q&A. Thank you for those. I think the biggest question that everyone has that I've talked to about this is whether or not this bill is a violation of the First Amendment. The First Amendment being the freedom of religion. The Establishment Clause, as what's known in legal terms, is that the government shall not infringe anyone's ability to practice a religion of their choosing. This bill, as written, would run into that issue because you have a situation where the government is not endorsing, but negatively endorsing or opposing a religious position. But you have the issue of any of the rewrites that we do. We cannot base the rewrites of this law in religion. It has to be from a purely historical and cultural standpoint. Because if we then try and write this law and say that the swastika is a Hindu symbol or a Jain symbol or a Buddhist symbol or a Sikh symbol or a Shinto symbol, any symbol based on religion, then we're now asking the government to violate the First Amendment and create a law that infringes on or establishes a support for a religion. And that's what the founding fathers of this country didn't want. They didn't want, like Europe, where you had Christian nations, or the Middle East had Islamic nations. They wanted free of religious persecution. And that's why it's the First Amendment. It's quite literally the most important one. That's why they put it first. To that end, other questions that have come up is, similarly to the creationism questions, there's schools in other areas where they say, we want to teach that the religion, that God created the universe in 7 days, and we want to teach that in school. You've heard plenty of news stories about how that's a giant court battle, because it is potentially a support of religion by the government, which is completely not allowed. The Supreme Court has 100% put a block on that. Whether it's putting a Christmas tree up on state grounds, or a menorah up on state grounds, or a satanic symbol up on state grounds, all of those come into legal trouble. And that's why if we want to have our amended wording that Nikunj and I and a lot of others have been working on to pass through, we need to make sure that this is not a religious question. It's a protection of facts, not religion or belief. To that end, one of the main lines, which is the legislative intent section of the bill, we've said it is the definitive history behind an infamous symbol, the hooked cross, which is a symbol that many wrongfully believe stems from the swastika. And so that's why we're asking in the changes that the education, if they're going to teach that the shape that goes like this roughly and is angled on its side with a white and black on a red background that you see on every World War II movie is a symbol of hate, that's fine if you're teaching in that context, but don't call it a swastika, because it's not a swastika. And make sure that if you teach that, and to overcome the decades of teaching it as a swastika, you make sure to teach that a swastika is actually an ancient symbol that predates the hooked cross. And not only does it predate it, but it's also still in use by half the planet. Specifically, we've also removed some wording in our suggested edits where it says it's an infamous symbol worldwide. It is not. It is an infamous symbol in the United States and in general, the first world, Western world. Now, educated people across the planet now understand the concept of what that symbol means in the context of World War II Germany. But to put it in that way means you're denying the history and you're forcing the education system to be further a Eurocentric system. So that's why when we've made this messaging, when we made these edits, and Nikunj and I have been working on the exact precise wording since, I don't know, you can remind me, Nikunj, probably like last March. I feel like what's older on this from the pandemic. And so we've been working to make sure that it does not run afoul of any issues. Because frankly speaking, if this passes, if they don't care and they pass it as it sits now, it passes through the assembly, Cuomo signs it, our only next step after that is to sue for injunctive relief, stopping the New York State Education Department from actually implementing it, because that's the only recourse we will have at that point. And I'm confident that we could win in that fight, but we shouldn't have to get to that point. I think a major thing that we have to see is, let's see, the next legal question was, is this a bill that bans the swastika? As Nikunj said earlier, this bill specifically is not banning the swastika. There are a few floating around that suggest you cannot post a swastika on outward facing or in a public area. Those have not gained traction as of yet because those are just blatantly in opposition to religious and First Amendment rights. You're going to have a lot of issues fighting there for them to actually try and pass that. Those are more bills for show, where it's just the authors and the co-sponsors want to show that this is their intent, this is how they feel about this situation, whether or not it can pass. Who is pushing it? So right now, just to give everyone context, I know we have many people that are either political operatives or heavily involved in political parties. I am taking a nonpartisan stance. Anyone that knows me knows what my political leanings are, but this is irrelevant to that. The current makeup of the New York State government is heavily in favor of the Democratic Party, which is why a lot of these bills and a lot of the work that's being done to push and change these bills is being done with Democratic senators. Because if need be, the Assembly, the Senate, and Cuomo could pass it through without any opposition. So the co-sponsors of this bill, and even last year, are people like Senator Kaminsky, who's now thankfully working with us a whole lot, Senator Kevin Thomas, a lot of people that are there. It's specifically a one-party bill because New York is now functionally a one-party state in many ways. So that's something that we need to focus on, because if we want to push back against this, we have to push back against several interests, many of which are very valid interests. Legally speaking, politically speaking, there's organizations that have a vested interest in this. The Jewish community has a very strong vested interest in this because they, like us, are trying to protect their identity. And only 60 years ago, they faced a genocide, and they need to protect themselves from that ever happening again. And no one on this planet and no one in this organization will ever fault them for that. To that end, though, we also can't allow for the erasure of our religion and our way of life. So that's why we have to find and strike that very even balance across it, where it needs to be used as a factual statement, not a religious. That's the big thing that we're going for here. I believe there was a Ms. Elena who said, why not teach both? Well, as I said, that's why we're going for requiring that they teach both. Why not reject it outright? That's also a very interesting question, because frankly, we can't. In an ideal world, yes, I would. My personal belief is that if you went through high school social studies, come out the other end, and think it's appropriate to draw a Nazi Hakenkreuz on a Jewish temple, you are a terrible human being and you didn't pay attention in social studies. So this law is essentially duplicative. If they didn't learn it the first time, they're not going to learn it again. It's just because you taught it again. But we need to do that to reinforce, you know, what that message is that we're trying to teach kids about good moral character. So could we reject it outright? No. It's whether that's a fight in the media or a fight in politics or a fight in law. Your fight in law is going to be in the court. It's not going to be before this passes. I did, let's see, First Amendment, we got covered. Why has it not been withdrawn? Well, it didn't go all the way through last year for whatever possible reasons, whether it's politics or whatever reasons. So it's being brought again this year. Why not withdrawn? Because essentially there's so many co-sponsors on it that there's enough people supporting it that it could never die. There's, I think, last count, 40 or 50 plus co-sponsors on that. And so that's why we just don't have that option. And yeah, I mean, that's essentially where we are with this. I think one thing that we might have to do, the closer we get to this bill getting to Governor Cuomo's desk, the more respectfully forceful we will have to be on this. We will have to threaten legal response. Now, there is no legal way to injunct them. We cannot stop them from making this a law with a court case. We can stop them from effectuating the law, putting it into effect with a court case. But in order for us to get them to stop, we have to sit across the table, recorded conversation, look the senator or the assembly person in the face and say, push comes to shove, if they don't change this writing, are you going to vote yes or no? And if they say, even if they don't change the writing, I'm still going to vote for it, then we have to, as an organization, as a community, pull all of our support from those individuals. Because right now, very frankly speaking, the Indian community has not done a great job, at least on Long Island, of consolidating voting power as a voting bloc. It has not consolidated fundraising power. It has not consolidated media power. We have very strong, influential individuals that are now getting very much into the fight for these things that matter. Dr. Raj Bayani, Mr. Rakesh Modi, the list goes on and on. But the problem is, for every strong individual, we have many organizations. And so that's why for this, indeed, very importantly, we need to make sure that all of these organizations have the same message, have the same wording for the bill to push it forward. Because if we're not moving forward together, there's no way we can put enough force to push this boulder. Whether it's, 16, what's stronger? 16 random rivers going forward, trying to push a boulder forward, or the Ganges shoving something down. So we need to be like Mata Ganga and be together and pushing forward. And so to that end, I mean, I am not going to put anyone on the spot today because everyone here is a guest at this panel. But I think you should look inward and say, do I respect the Indian community? Do I respect the Asian community enough that I'm willing to vote no on this? Or does their vote not matter? Does their money not matter? And I'm just going to vote yes and just tell them I support them. Any other questions? Popped up.
Yep.
Q&A.
Yeah, we're running short on time. I know, Jennifer, you had a comment to make, right? Please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say, Nipun, I see ESQ after your name, Esquire, which means you're a lawyer. And it definitely shows very effective arguments. I would say that one thing maybe to consider is if you want to have a assembly bill that I can introduce, an assembly bill of our choosing that we craft, I would be happy to consider that and work with you on one.
Beautiful.
That way we can come at it from exactly our perspective. And I agree with you that this is an incredible opportunity to educate people and even to maybe develop allies within the Jewish community who can come together with us. Just before coming here, I was advocating for Diwali to be a school holiday in New York City. And I'm hopeful that this will be the year that it finally happens. So this is the year where Hindu Americans and all who celebrate Diwali will be able to really become known, and educate the state. It's a tremendous opportunity, and I look forward to enjoying that with all of you.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for that. Yeah, would be happy to. We'll be in touch on that front. It'll be great to introduce a similar language bill that we want through the assembly. That's a great idea. Thank you very much for that. Awesome. So I think we have answered. Yeah, we've answered a lot of questions. I think we're running short of time. I think many questions have come about, and I think Nipun has answered a lot of questions. Naturally, we can keep going on and on, but what I'd like to do is basically wrap it up. We'll definitely do another session, and we'll keep people updated. If you have any questions, please shoot us an email at info@kona.org. We will be putting information about the common messaging on the website so that everybody understands what are the common messages we want to talk to our representatives on. And if you have any suggestions and anything, please do get in touch with us. We want to work together as a community. And as you can see, we have a lot of great people on here, not just from the Indian American community, but Caribbean community, Buddhist community, Jain community, every different types of people who actually care about this important symbol. There's a symbol for peace, well-being, and prosperity. And I'm going to just allow Tarunji quickly, if you want to share a thought, please go ahead. And
Namaskar, everybody. My name is Tarun. I am the chairman of the Hindu Temple Society in Albany. And I was talking to Nikunj about it. The day it came out, the bill, I did tell my community, this is a social issue, it's not a religious issue, because it is going to affect us, our children, for the generations. And I strongly urge everybody, keep calm on it. We have to be collective and we have to be united, and we got to have a single message. The objective is to declare, to declare swastika is not a hate symbol. That is the important thing. The rest is all whatever we're going to do, whatever the paths we take, we got to be united with one message. That's why I was talking to Nikunji. The other day I told him, we have to have a common message and then a common platform. So if we invite everybody together, we got to have a common message, and it has to be driven from the top to bottom. Otherwise, as he said, there's so many channels are coming through, and we got to go as a Mata Ganga. That is the main objective. That's what we have to do. So that's what I was asking everybody. And actually, I did approach the governor's office through Interfaith Coalition. And they mentioned, the governor's office told us, we want to have a dialogue with you. And not only to have a dialogue with you, but we say that we are, even if it comes to our desk, we are not going to sign. Governor is not going to sign. But the problem is, if we don't wake up right now and then push it and then make his message clear, one day or the other, it's going to get passed. So we got to educate the community, not only to educate the community, educate the senators. So that's why we got to be politically active. Unless we have a voice, otherwise it will become a noise. So we got to have a single voice, and we as a community has come together. We are actually, that unfortunately, we are fortunately or unfortunately, we are the most educated and economically empowered communities, but we don't have much of a unity, unfortunately. That has to change, and we have to come together, as this is an education bill. This has nothing to do with our religion. This is our social aspect of it, and then how we're gonna practice our religion, how we're gonna live is gonna change it.
Absolutely.
So, very important thing. Thank you, Nivin.
Yeah, thank you, Tarunji. And Tarunji is also the chairman of the Council of the Temples in the Capital District area. So thank you, Tarunji, for joining as well.
Nikunj, just a 10-second comment. Yeah, for this Raj Bayani.
Yeah, so go ahead, Rakesh ji first, and then Dr. Bayani, please.
Nikunj, next, the Interfaith of New York has agreed to have us have an interview with Chief Rabbi of New York City. Next Tuesday, there's a Zoom meeting. In fact, Dr. Rajendra Gandhi, he's not here, but he was the main, he's on the board there. and he's arranged for a meeting, and we might invite some more people to that meeting. Maybe if you are available, it's going to be next Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
He's willing to talk to us, and he has a lot of influence in the New York Jewish community, as you would know. He's the chief rabbi of New York City. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and I'll follow up on that after talking to Dr. Gandhi.
We'll definitely talk offline on that.
Yeah.
Dr. Bani, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just want to emphasize only one more point is let's not assume this is the only bill which we're fighting for. We need to stay united because there is a lot more bills coming on our way, which we have to stand united and stand with some policy and strategy where we can fight this onslaught on us every time. With that, a lot of us in Long Island, New York, have come together and starting a super PAC, which is extremely big deficiency of Hindus in New York State. And that is being formed as we speak. And Mukeshji, Dr. Arya, Mohan Vachu, and all of us are putting in a lot of efforts into that. We'll be making an announcement about it pretty soon. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I know there are a lot of efforts going on. So I'm wishing you all the best. And naturally, we will all work together as much as possible. I will say, I think, yeah, we're running out of time. So I apologize. I know everybody has a lot of questions. We'll definitely do this again. But if you have more questions, please send us to info@kona.org, and we can work together. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. The bill is just one piece of it. The entire education process has to be introduced. So Dr. Nakagaki and I have been discussing this. We have launched a campaign called Swastika Education and Awareness Campaign. We have about 30 organizations that have joined hands with us. So if you would like to join hands with us, please go to kona.org/swastika, and you will see those organizations there. This is a long-term effort. There's a lot going on. It's not just in the US. Obviously, it starts in New York, but what happens in New York can have repercussions all around the US and all around the world. So let's stay united. Let's have a common message. Let's speak in one voice, and let's definitely support Jennifer in her noble efforts in helping the community, and as well as all the community members that are here today, and who are not able to join us today. So thank you all for joining again. Best wishes, and let's work on this together. I'm pretty sure we can get it done. Namaste to all.
Thank you, everybody.
Namaste, namaste, and just